is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
Now, Baby Ghoul, when you think of Hank Williams, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Like a favorite song?
Favorite song, anything from like your childhood? Because you've been listening to Hank Williams for as far back as you can remember. I mean, you belt out his songs when he comes on the radio.
Since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they would say, from where I'm from. Favorite song would be Rambling Man.
Rambling
Absolutely.
Man?
Yeah. Hey, good looking. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, my favorite Hank Williams song would have to be Alone and Forsaken.
That's a good one.
Right?
I love that one too, yeah.
It's something about the way he sings it and the words. Well, today's Grimm adventure finds us in Montgomery, Alabama, where you'll find the final resting place of Hank Williams. He's actually over there. We're going to show you guys in just a moment. Today we're going to be telling the story of how he died and show you some Hank Williams sites around town. Well, a couple of different states. This is a big video. Now, speaking of Hank Williams songs, Baby Ghoul, there's another good one that's known as The Lost Highway. And in a way, I kind of feel like since we've been on the road for so many days to get here, I mean, this isn't our final stop. This is a stop on a much bigger adventure that I feel like we're part of that song in some way, shape, or form. Like it should be like a soundtrack to what we're doing. Now, right now here in Montgomery, Alabama, we are in the Oakwood Cemetery Annex. And it's a beautiful little spot, a beautiful, bright, sunny day.
It's a lovely day.
Usually we like to film in like overcast, cloudy days, but this will do because, well, I keep referencing his songs.
It's hard not to.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, wait just a moment. I realize that there's a possibility that there's somebody out there watching this video right now who has never heard the name Hank Williams or has never heard any of his music. And you said what, Baby Ghoul?
That's blasphemous.
Now, here's the thing. Hank Williams wrote some of the most memorable music in country music history, and a lot of it had to deal with drinking and loneliness.
I'm gonna keep drinking till I can't move a toe.
Touched a lot of people. Now, sadly, Hank Williams died at the age of 29 in a place known as Oak Hill, West Virginia. Well, here's the thing. Nobody really knows where he died. That's when his body was discovered. And we're going to talk about all that in a little bit. But what we're going to do here, like I said, is visit his grave. Now, I realize that this topic can be a little heavy for some. There's drinking and so we have a joke to kind of lighten things up. Baby Ghoul, you ready?
I'm ready.
What do you get when you play country music backwards?
Turnips?
You get your dog back, your wife back, your job back, your car back. All right, on with the video. It really is a beautiful day for a cemetery walk, a little cemetery safari. But we're cheating a little bit. We know exactly where Hank Williams is. Right back there, you can see that cross that's off in the distance, then these two monoliths to the left-hand side of your screen. That is where we are headed. The final resting place of Hank Williams is actually pretty easy to find in the cemetery. I mean, it's not a very big cemetery, but there is a sign down on the main street that points you to the direction of what's known as the Hank Williams Circle. And back here in the very back, the top of the hill for the most part, is where you'll find this. Two monoliths, bunch of beautiful stonework, astroturf, and the final resting place of Hank Williams himself. It really is a bright sunny day here in Montgomery. And I'm really hoping that this all comes out on camera. It's really hard to see with the light, but Hank Williams, 1923 to 1953. We're going to point this out in just a minute, but he is buried next to his second wife, Audrey. But this is beyond beautiful. Now, this isn't the first time I made the trip out here to Hank's grave. I was out here a couple years ago, and it was a rainy, cold, cloudy day. But this is kind of nice, because at the top of his stone here, it says, "Praise the Lord, I saw the light," and we got the sun shining brighter than ever. Now, if you look right here, you can see that plaque, that little bronze plaque. Get a little closer to it. Hank's sitting there playing guitar. And like I said, he's buried next to his wife, Audrey Williams. And her monolith, at the top of that, it says, "Now I'm so happy, no sorrow in sight."
Audrey wasn't always here, actually. She was exhumed by her children and brought here in the early 2000s.
So this place didn't always look like this.
No.
I mean, originally it was Hank Williams, but Audrey, his wife, who's there to the left, just behind Jessica, she was brought here. And this AstroTurf wasn't always here either. I'm going to back up quite a bit so you guys can take all this in. So in between the two, there's a plaque, and it says, "Please do not desecrate this sacred spot. Thanks, Hank Williams Jr." And the reason that's there is because whenever Hank was here, it was just like dirt, like no grass would grow. And in order to kind of like, make this place last, Hank Williams Jr. and the family put the AstroTurf here. And as far as I know, what about you, Baby Goal? I think this might be the only grave that I know in existence that has AstroTurf.
I feel like I've maybe seen it before, but I can't conclusively give you a name or location. But this is the best version, I can say that for certain, that I have seen, yes.
Here's a closer look at that plaque that I was just talking about. "Please do not desecrate this sacred spot. Many thanks, Hank Williams Jr." Now, what's really nice about this, there's so many things to look at, especially if you're a fan of Hank Williams and his music. Like right down here, you can see there's a cowboy hat and it says Luke the Drifter. But a lot of his songs are actually inscribed in the stonework here. Let me show you what I mean. A closer look at the stone that has the hat on it, like the pedestal. It says, "Men with broken hearts," and "I just told Mama goodbye." And then right over here, I see some musical notes. There's a mansion on the hill, long gone lonesome blues, your cheating heart, lovesick blues, and I can't help it. And the birds singing in the background really is a nice touch. And then on the other side, we have a couple other ones. Hey Good Looking, Call Elijah, Cold Cold Heart, I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive, and Jambalaya.
This is surreal. Never in my days did I think I'd be able to stand at the grave of Hank Williams and say that God has called home his rambling man, just like in his song.
Now we made our way to the back side of the monoliths because back here there's actually some writing. And I never like to read this stuff on camera, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this here for just a moment. Feel free to pause it, read it, and then come back to the video. But this is on the back side of Hank's monolith. And on the back side of Audrey's, there's writing just the same. This time it says something a little bit different. We get a little closer to it, and I'm going to stop so you can pause it and read it. Right about there.
Something I noticed that's kind of a food for thought moment. We visit cemeteries so much that I'm used to seeing family legacies, senior, junior, third, fourth, etc. And even growing up, you never heard of Hank Williams often being referred to as senior. It was just Hank Williams, right? And I noticed that while I was looking at this, I was like, oh, it doesn't say senior, but for junior it does, and then for Hank third, he's called the third. And I think that's a nice way to respect what he started in his life with the music that he made and the lives he touched.
I almost forgot to show this. The entrance to the plot, it says Hank and Audrey, and people have come and they have left money, little coins. It's a nice little plot. Who am I kidding? It's not little, it's actually pretty big. So we have Hank Williams, his final resting place right here. his second wife, Audrey, right over here. Hank's mother, Hank's sister. This is the Williams family plot, if you will. If you're a fan of the music or if you're in the area, by all means come out here. But as for us, for this video, we have a couple more sites that we want to see. Some that are here in Montgomery and others that are up in West Virginia. So this video, this journey that you guys are about to take with us, is kind of a doozy. Hopefully you enjoy.
The world of folk music lost one of its greatest performers, one of its greatest writers. At 1:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the teletype machine in our newsroom here at WCKY began typing out a dispatch from Oak Hill, West Virginia. It said hillbilly singer and composer Hank Williams died early today, apparently of a heart attack while being driven to a radio singing date at Canton, Ohio.
Now, if you know anything about Montgomery, Alabama, then you know that this place has a ton of history, way more than just what we're talking about with Hank Williams. But before we head up to West Virginia, there's still one more piece of the Hank Williams story that we want to talk about, and that's this building right here. This is where Hank's funeral was held on January 4th, 1953. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the camera right here because this is as close as we're going to get to a newspaper shot that was taken during the funeral. Now, in this picture, you're going to see this building and the windows on the right-hand side, just to the right of that tree, all match up. Now, picture this. Here in the streets, right where Jessica's standing, over 25,000 people showed up for Hank Williams' funeral. 25,000 lined these streets. 25,000. And only about 2,700, somewhere around there, 2,500, something like that, only made it in to see him laid out. And there's pictures, tons of pictures online about this. Crazy, right? All right, baby girl, you have to tell us. Since we arrived to Montgomery, Alabama, you've been doing some deep diving into research, and you found a very interesting article. Well, what did you find? Lay it on us.
This is hearsay, but supposedly Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, they may have been married by that time, were passing through a few days after the funeral, and they stopped and gave their condolences to the Williams family. And they had actually signed a registry which would later go missing or stolen. So it cannot be confirmed, but it's something that puts the timeline into perspective.
Now here's the thing. When Hank Williams died, he really wasn't at the top of his game. I mean, after years of drinking and painkillers, his life was really starting to suffer. His music, his work, I mean, everything. And when he died, he was in the middle of what he was hoping was going to be a bit of a comeback for him. There were two shows, and sadly, both shows were in the middle of winter, which means bad weather. Now, the first show actually got canceled because of an ice storm, but for the second show, he had to show up. So him and his 17-year-old driver, a man by the name of Charles Carr, drove from the hotel to what would have been Canton, Ohio for that New Year's Day show. But sadly, somewhere in the middle of West Virginia, Hank was discovered dead in the backseat of the car. He never made it. And it became known as Hank's Last Ride. And that spot is where we're going right now. Now this is probably one of the most surreal things I've ever done. Standing here in this parking lot in West Virginia. So this is the Skyline Drive-In. And if you look closely at the sign above the door, it says Hank's Last Stop. This is where Hank was in the back of the car whenever he was discovered dead. And it's still here. I mean, how crazy is this? A lot of times whenever it comes to things like this, things change quite a bit, whether it's a business getting torn down or a new business going in or remodeling. It's nice to see that the business here honors Hank. Now just try to imagine this. Hank's Cadillac would have pulled into this parking lot from the right-hand side, just on the other side of that camper right there, because to the left, 6 miles down the road, is Oak Hill, where the hospital was and where his car was kept. We're going to show that in just a little bit. But right here in the parking lot is really where it all ended, Hank's last stop. Now, before we move on to our next location, we have to grab a bite to eat, right? So you got the menu, right? So what are we looking at here? Skyline Drive-In, Hank's last stop. We got a couple different burgers coming. But right over here in this corner, this is what we wanted to show you guys. Some newspaper clippings, records on the wall, back up a little bit. That blue picture, let's get in here. This is the copy of the death certificate. And like we said earlier, his last concert that he didn't make, that he was heading to, is this one here in Canton, New Year's Day, January 1st. And then at the back of the seating area, they have this on the wall. It kind of reminds me of Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, right? Hank's last stop. That's nice. That's really nice. Oh man. I don't know if it's a good idea that I'm holding an umbrella in a thunderstorm. I just saw some lightning as well. But it is what it is. As you can tell, it just started to rain, but that's okay, because we still got some sights to see. Now from here, Hank Williams' driver said that whenever he finally realized that Hank was dead, he decided to go to Oak Hill to the hospital. And in interviews before he died, I think it was like 2013 is whenever the interview took place, Carr said that he remembers passing a sign that said Oak Hill 6 miles. So we're about 6 miles outside of Oak Hill, West Virginia. Now, baby Goal, this is just further proof that you never really know what to expect on the road. You kind of have to be ready for everything. So it looks like from here on out, we have rain. Now, we're standing on the steps of a library. And the reason for this, that road right there is where we just came from. If we keep going down that way, that is where we just were, where Hank Williams, his body was discovered in the back of the car. And Carr, the 17-year-old boy, well, man, would have drove the Cadillac right down here. And a lot of people say that it wasn't at that location that we were just at, that where he actually stopped was a gas station right across the street. You can see that water tower, but right there on the corner, there used to be a gas station there. Now, that's not where they stopped. So, Carr was heading to the hospital, and whenever he got there, it was declared that Hank Williams was dead. And since they were so far away from home, the gas station that was across the street is where they kept his car. They kept it in a garage away from prying eyes, away from cameras. It sat there for quite some time. Crazy, right? Now, even though the gas station is long gone, right here in front of the library, you will find a little plaque that talks about Hank Williams. You see, this is nice. This is really nice. You guys should know by now, I hate reading things like this on camera, especially whenever it's raining the way that it is and the wind is starting to pick up. So feel free to pause this video, read the plaque, and then pick up right where you left off. You know how we were just talking about how some things get torn down and some things get saved? The gas station was torn down some years ago. It's been long gone. There's no trace of it. But the car that Hank Williams was in the back seat, dead, you can actually visit that. And for this, we have to go all the way back to Montgomery, Alabama. We have a little bit of a special treat here. You see behind me is the Hank Williams Museum here in Montgomery, Alabama, and usually they do not allow photos or pictures inside, but today we get to take our cameras in and show you something a little special. When it comes to anything and everything Hank Williams, this is the place where you want to go here in Montgomery, Alabama. From suits to boots, to records, to clothing, to pieces of furniture from the family. They have it all. But we are here because they actually have the car that Hank Williams died in, as well as the suit that he was wearing whenever he passed.
So what you're looking at right now is the fully restored Cadillac that Hank Williams was found dead in. He was actually in the back seat. And to be completely honest, walking near this car and looking at it just sent shivers down my spine. I love things like this where it's so beautiful, but yet at the same time something so tragically sad happened here. And just picturing him slumped over in the back seat is just insane. The museum had a ton of suits on display. I think it was like 14 or 15 different ones, but this one here, the blue one, is what he was wearing at the time of his death in the back seat of the car. Also on display is the coat that Hank was holding in his hands whenever he died. It was draped across his lap in the back seat of the car. Everything was behind glass and just pristine. Pretty nice museum. Pretty wild, right? And with that, thank you for joining us on this grim adventure. Until next time, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.